Awesome. Hi everyone. I guess it's afternoon in Moldova. A little bit late for me. It's almost 11 p.m. where I am based at the moment. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here and to walk you through some of my learnings and thoughts on the topic that we're going to discuss. I'm not sure if Genny, do you want to say something? I just jumped on and started to talk. In
No,
case you want
all
to.
good, all good. I just want to tell to our attendees, to our participants, that today we will have a lecture in English because so we also have to help you guys to develop your language skills. Yeah, but considering that we have students from different regions, so of Moldova, that's why. So we decided to use English back. So that's why I warmly welcome Rodika and thank you for the support of our program. So I would like to, so you will introduce yourself as I understood a bit later.
Yes.
So I will not get your time. Then I would like to ask you guys, our dear students, to really listen carefully at this topic because actually, from my perspective, good team and how you organize all relationships inside the team, it's actually one of the key factors of success of the successful startup. Because so any mistakes done at the very beginning will crash your startup on the long run. So that's why, please listen carefully. Do not hesitate to ask your questions. And Marika, the floor is yours. Again, thank you for your support.
Awesome. Thanks for, reminding me that we have a diverse group. I'll try to speak slowly and to have a more basic English so that I'm not confusing anyone. Please, feel free to ask in Romanian or in Russian. I am absolutely fine to, get those questions. However, I think I prepared a presentation in English. Is a lot easier for me these days. But if you're not comfortable to write in English, I think we will manage this. Briefly about me, currently I'm a director of finance and people in a fintech company from US, based with a center of excellence in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. This is also where we have our biggest office, about 300 employees as we speak, and in total globally we are 500 plus. We have offices in US, we have offices in Armenia, and we have office in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. In my role, I oversee, as I said, all the internal related processes and everything that is connected with people and finance for the KL team. And I'm overseeing it with a team of 15 people. I've been in Malaysia for about 5 years plus now, and my experience in the startup world started some 6 years ago. Been involved and engaged in different startups, different industry, starting from food and beverage, mobility, mainly the car sharing concept, fintech now, and as well, like I had multiple roles in the startups, starting from fundraising and accounting to strategy, hiring, sales. I think that's the beauty of it when you are in a startup, in a small team with 10 people or less at the beginning. You end up doing everything. You are, not bound to a certain job scope, and you literally see how the company is growing. In my free time, I also co-founded a company called Minatory that happened about 1 year ago, which I'm still managing during my weekend and nighttime. It's an e-commerce platform that is focused on superfoods. Extremely proud that we are also carrying products from Moldova. One of the products is honey, the other one walnuts, and together with my partners, we managed to be the very first company that created or established like an export-import relationship between Malaysia and Moldova. To go back to my background back at home, I graduated 2 bachelor degrees, one in banking and finance at ICM, and the other one was in international law at UCM. And the master's that I graduated was in Sweden in corporate and financial management with a scholarship from Swedish Institute. That's about me. I'm not gonna, share more boring facts here. I'm super excited to go into the topic that I was asked to help with. We're gonna discuss about team roles in the team, responsibilities, and vesting tools. I kind of did it in my way. I think I mixed my experience, the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis, but also some study cases from companies that really are well perceived in the industries, and companies from whom we are learning on a daily basis. So I'm going to share some people trends, some people tools, 2 study cases on Basecamp and Netflix. And then at the end, I'm also going to touch upon the equity management and vesting tools and what is vesting in general. Starting, but before I go into the topic, I'm actually absolutely fine if people have questions to interrupt me during the session. It's a little bit weird for me to have a one-way communication. So Evgeny, absolutely fine if someone wants to ask something while we talk. I'm cool with that. What Evgeny said at the beginning, I couldn't agree more with that. The effectiveness of an organization rests upon the ability of a certain group of people to do things together. And you've noticed that I've highlighted people and together, which is the success factor for a team to build a company. And in order to build a strong organization, we must learn how we can build strong functional relationships. And for that, the communication norms and the tools that we are using are basically the base. They are the foundation of those relationships. It's another reason why I will speak more in my next slides about communication norms and about tools. Now, while preparing for this session, I was reading some articles, and one in the Harvard Business Review. It's an old one, but I think they have this data from a study of research conducted on 1,400 plus companies, Fortune 500 companies in US, and they were asking the question, what does it take for a good company to become a great company? And the results of the research brought them to this 5-level hierarchy, where they say that in order, to build a great team, you need to have all of these levels throughout your team. I'll start from the lower one, and I'm not going to, refer to, I don't know, C-level or CTO, CEO. I think that's very, very, you can read about this a lot, like what each of the role can do. I'm going to speak more from a high-level perspective. So at level 1, you have those individual, highly capable folks that they contribute on a daily basis to the growth of the company with their talent, with their knowledge, and with their skills and good working habits. Now, moving up the ladder, you have more focus on the contributing team member, which means that the expectation from them is already to be aware of how to work in a group, how to achieve a group of objectives, and as I said, to be effective in the relationship that they have with their colleagues. On an level 3, you already start finding the managers. And from a manager perspective, I think what is really, really expected from them is to organize people. That's the main and the main job of a manager. They need to know how to organize the people and the resources that they have, and in order to be able to achieve the results and to be efficient and effective in those goals that are set by him or for him. On a level 4, we move towards a leader, and I love that there is this difference between manager and leader. So the effective leader, they have to catalyze, they have to push the commitment, and they have to really, really have a clear and compelling vision. They need to, stimulate the group for high performance standards. That's the main difference between a manager and a leader. A manager works with people. They work with the resources on smaller groups. The leader thinks on a high level, and they already need to be able to think on a vision for the entire company. And then on the level 5, you have the executive team. And that's where you'll find your C-suite. You'll find the CEO, the CTO, the CMO, COO. There are a lot of other, C-level positions that nowadays are being invented. But mainly their goal is to have a combination between personal humility and a professional will. They are the example. They drive the entire company, and I'll speak later about this, but lead by example. I think it's how do you put it in a short term for an executive level. Now this is a very ugly slide, but I really wanted to have it here because it really summarizes a very, very cool guide to internal communication from Basecamp. Not sure how many of you used or know what Basecamp is. Basically a project management tool founded in Denmark, and they are really, really well known in the people ops space for their culture. And years ago, they published this 30 guidelines or 30, points that they follow when they build and the way they work with their team members. I've highlighted here. They're not all of them. Really advise each of you who wants to become a leader, wants to have a startup, wants to be an entrepreneur, to have a look, to find it online. I can also share it with you after this session. It's a really good reading, and it's important for each of you to at least reflect upon these values. I don't agree with all of this, obviously, but at least deciding what's the style and what's the culture that you want to build in your team, it's a very, very good step. So just to highlight and discuss a few of this, the main point that they are making is about communication. That you cannot not communicate, and not discussing the elephant in the room is communicating. To keep it simple, basically, don't avoid the difficult conversations, face them and be transparent. That's what they try to say. Also, they have a really, really cool perception of real-time communication and asynchronous communication. Basically, real-time, they are referring to meetings, and they say that having meetings is the last resort, not the first option. While asynchronous communication, and by asynchronous communication, we are referring to emails, we are referring to Slack messages, or any other tools where you can communicate offline with your colleagues and team members. That's something that they perceive as the new norm. Why I say it's cool? Because they released these guidelines years ago, before COVID hit us, and as a company, they were prepared to be successful and to continue to perform well, because they set up the such values in the team. So there was no shock for people to be suddenly at home and to rely so much on Zoom calls or Google Hangouts or on Slack messages or emails. But that was already in their DNA. Now, a few others that I'm really I found them very, very interesting is the 5 meeting in the room for an hour. It is not an hour meeting; it's literally a 5-hour meeting. So really take into account when you schedule a meeting with how many people you are doing, how many people are in the room, and count the hours per attendees, not just in a value of like time. The same time, demanding immediate response. I think that's I've been working in Moldova also for 3 years, and sometimes you are expected to reply immediately. This is bullshit, because it's just increasing the odds of poor decision. You need to reply fast, and you need to be and this causes a lot of errors. They even said that urgency is overrated, and SAIP is just a poison, which means that before you talk, you think. Urgent, right at the time, and really, when you write things, you have more time to process that information and to deliver a good and strong argument. Companies do not have communication problems; they have miscommunication problems, and I think the last one that I'm gonna just highlight here is that great news delivered on the heels of bad news, they make both worse, because the bad news will feel like they are that's being buried, and the good news feel that's just injected, or you are sharing good news just to change the mood. So you really need to choose when you deliver, and what message do you deliver, and what space do you utilize, and what space do you go to in order to deliver that message. I'll go next now to the next company, which is Netflix. For this one, I'm a little bit more confident that you might be more familiar with it. They as well, like, they are very well known in the tech space, not only for the product they developed, but for the culture that they are building. They build. Again, a lot of readings you can do on this topic, on how Netflix reinvented people ops or HR. And they really have this like 5 main components, and that's the foundation of Netflix: hire, reward, and tolerate only fully formed adults; tell the truth about performance; managers own the job of creating great teams, and leaders own the job of creating the company's culture. While good talent managers think like business people and innovators first, and like HR people last. This is a little bit painful one, but I'll explain in a bit what they actually mean with it. So I'll briefly share the highlights of each of these points, and I'm happy later to take questions about it. So when it comes to hiring, rewarding, Netflix really they share the message that the best thing you can do for your team, for your employees, is to have and to hire, to bring on the team only A players, the best talent that you can find on the market. Because I mean, nothing, the free lunch that you're gonna bring, or the insurance that you're gonna add to your benefits, or the unlimited paid time off that you're gonna introduce to your team, they don't add that much value compared to working with amazing people, learning from them, building together a cool product, and being driven by these people. And great talent, they literally trump everything together. Now, what they mean by adult-like behavior, they really focus a lot on transparency, and they encourage people to talk about any issues they have with their managers, with their colleagues, and with their direct reports. That also basically explains their next value: tell the truth about your performance, about performance in general. And it's something that you don't have to agree with it, you don't have to follow it like the way they do it. We have companies in the industry that take a completely different approach to it, but again, you need to think, and you need to take into account, and to define how would you do things in your own startup or in your own company. So if you want only top performers, A players, in your team, you have to be ready to let go, to fire people whose skills are no longer a fit for the company. And the memory or the impact that they had, no matter how valuable they used to be in the past, once the company grows and they don't grows fast and they cannot keep up with that pace, you need to let him go. Obviously, the way Netflix does it, they offer very, very high compensation packages to help them. But the main idea is that difficult decision must be taken, and you are doing it in order to continue the growth of your company. Now, the topic about managers, the fact that they own their main job is to create great teams. I also started with that, and I said that building a great team is the most important task for any manager. And they used to quote the military performance during the Iraq War, and the former defense secretary in U.S. When he famously said that you go to war with the army you have, not the army you might want or wish to have at a later time. And when you build your own company, these are actually things where the approach to the process is exactly the opposite. You start your company, or you should look into starting with your company with the best talent, and to be prepared with that talent to build great products. Don't settle for just a employee, but try to look for the top. Speaking about military literature again, I think it's a really, really cool topic. You should, if you're interested into this space, you should probably look more into such literature, because it's very interesting how teams are being formed in military, only because they are under highly risk projects, and the way they start to build work as a team and to operate as a team needs very, very strong managers and leadership on top of it. Again, leaders, they are the ones that build the company culture. And here there are three problems that are highlighted in a startup environment, and I'm familiar with most of them. First one is when you have to make a choice between the casualness, being casual, and high performance. What does this mean is that the manager, sometimes the CEO, CTO tries to be cool, and they try to go into meetings without actually knowing they are topics, having someone made it for them 5 minutes ago, and they just bluff it and try to work or appeal to their personal charisma, or they really try to build this culture of like beers after 9 p.m. or after 5 p.m. in the office, and at the same time the high performance might be taken, might be on the second place in those moments. However, for them, in order to operate, it is expected that you are doing your best job. So the top, or the main message here is lead by example. That's a simple way to do it. If you as a manager have certain values, and you conduct yourself based on those values, be sure that your employees, your members, your team, they will follow that. They will take it from you. They will perceive it as normal, and they will do the same. The second issue is for any leader to make sure that the employee understands what drives the business. What I mean here is, even if you've hired a top talent, if you don't communicate to them how do you make money and where are you with your profitability, they will, or what individual performance and behavior is expected from them in order to be successful in the job and to drive the growth of the company, you will fail, because everyone needs to understand how they're contributing and what can they do in order to go higher. And the first issue is about the split personalities. At startup, you will have different positions, different people, different roles, and it's not uncommon that the certain roles are paid better compared to others. I think the easiest example is to look at this at the tech workforce, at your tech team compared to your sales team or your call center team. And then you'll see a huge difference. So the leaders, the leadership team needs to be aware of the differences. They need to be aware that there's going to be subcultures that might require different management and will require a lot of transparency. And the last one, I said that it's known is the ugly truth when it comes to people ops or HR. Normally, this is the department that is the most uninnovative in the team. They always just follow what's on the market, and they don't want to innovate. They don't want to change. However, this department exists in the company to really think of and answer the three basic questions: what is good for the company? How do we communicate this to our team members, to the employees, and how can we help every team member to understand what we mean by high performance? And here, I'm going to explain a little bit about the trend between human resources and people ops. Basically, from a human resource perspective, it's more on, you perceive it as something much more abstract. It's just human. Expected to have empathy, to listen, to coach, and to support the values of the company. While lately the trend is to move towards something called people operations. And the way I describe it is very similar to how you build a product and the product management team. Basically, the product people operation is the product that your team buys during the recruitment process. So everyone, when they start interviewing with us, they analyze the product that we have and they compare it with other products or other job or companies. And they continue to subscribe to this product throughout the entire tenure with the company. You upgrade the product, you introduce new policies, you change the subscription fee, you pay them more money, and eventually the whole contract ends when they hand in their resignation. That's when they don't like that product anymore. They don't like Facebook anymore. They switch towards Instagram or TikTok. And sometimes, though, this interaction between people ops and the employee goes beyond their resignation, and it shifts towards alumni programs. And Google is quite famous to have to be successful in creating alumni programs for their former employees. Summarizing the aspects of like Netflix culture, and I think the last point is the most important one. First, define your values. You need to know what you value, and you need to communicate that and to embody that. Always focus on high performance. They value a lot of freedom and responsibility. They advocate for freedom and responsibility. Context, not control. Highly aligned, loosely coupled, pay top of the market, and always make sure there is enough promotion and development. And the most important one, keep improving as you go, because the workforce is not static. It's not static. It keeps changes. Just what I was saying just now, COVID switched entirely the way we work, the way we talk, the way we operate, and you need to keep improving and shifting your culture and your processes that reflect that culture as you grow. A few trends and tools, a lot of softwares and systems listed here. Some of them you might need, some of them you might not need, but it's good for you to know what's possible to do in this area. First of all, employee experience takes over. And when I say employee experience, I'm really I'm talking about how do you communicate with your employees? Is that via Zoom, or is that via Slack? Is this how do you allow them? Where do you store their documents? How do you track their performance? How do you give them the feedback, and what benefits they have? Some of the tools that we use is Zoom for calls, Slack for internal communication. Bamboo HR is the human resource software system that where we document all the we have all the documents. We keep track of all the paid time off that they request. We keep track of their trajectory of the company, direct managers. It's literally the folder and the information that you need about someone. Workplace from Facebook, that used to be the tool that we were using, for fun announcement and just to build to have a separate environment where we discuss with people non-work related items. Asana, project management tool, and we use it for every single team. And Lattice used to be used for feedback, one-on-one feedback, very short bullet points, and that's stored in the system. You can always refer to that. Employee resource planning. This is strong, and it will be redefined. It is continuing to be redefined in the industry. Here, I'm using personally Chart Hub and Bamboo HR. What I mean here is basically your work chart. All the requests that you have for, or the plans that you have. How do you grow a team from 100 people to 250 people? How do you define the reporting lines? How do you understand what's the budget that is going to be affected? How do you understand what location are you going to use for that? How do you also define the space, physical space that you need to have for all of these people? So these are tools where you can do projections. You can share them with your entire team, especially if you have global teams. That's very, very helpful. Skills and intelligence platforms are the next big thing. The few ones that we are using, but that's a huge space at the moment. LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, EDX, Coursera, Pluralsight. It's literally all you can do to learn online. You are now enrolled in a course online, basically. And from a workplace perspective, we want to make sure that our talent is updated with the latest industry trends. We want to give them access to the tools to study during work time or also free time, and we use this many tools because we have a variety of technical and non-technical talent, and we want to make sure that there is content for each of them in these tools. Now going to recruiting and internal mobility tools. Again, hiring. This is something that becomes much more aggressive these days. There is a lot of competition, and I think the talent, the borders are just non-existent, and they can have a job in US, they can have a job in Germany, or they can have a job in Singapore. And for that, you really need good processes, smart team, and good tools to make sure that you are avoiding mistakes. Greenhouse is literally the best hiring tool on the market. It's also one of the most expensive on the market. So there are more. I can advise a few tools that are for smaller companies, which come at a very accessible price, such as Breezy HR, HackerRank. We use it during our hiring process for conducting test assessments, especially when you hire for backend engineers or data scientists. You need to understand what's their level, and where do you move them forward in the hiring process. Again, LinkedIn Recruiter, big help to locate that talent, and GitHub is also very helpful when it comes to identifying technical talent. Employee listening, explosive growth. What this means is that you really need to we really need to start listening more to our employees. We need to collect more data. People data becomes also a very, very good, a very important trend. And we conduct quarterly eNPS, which means Employee Net Promoter Scores. The way a company would have net promoter scores for their customers, we do it internally, because my customers are the employees of the company I work with. I want to make sure that they are happy. I want to listen to their feedback, to their concerns, and work on it. Most of the times, the top priorities from this eNPS would end up on my KPIs for the quarter or for the year. Pulse surveys, these are more instruments where you did something in the office and you want on the spot to know how are you feeling, and like to really gather that feedback that you want, like immediate feedback. Performance, talent, learning. It is important what I was saying just now, that you need to be bold in your decisions, and to make sure, and to be ready to let go talent. For that, we are using something called Engagely. We used to do quarterly performance assessments, but that's not sustainable for a bigger team. When we were 100 people in the company, we were doing it on a quarterly basis. Now we are 300, so we decided to do it twice a year. Let's see. I really hope we don't get to that stage where we're going to do it once a year, because I think it's too long of a time span. But that's basically the trend. And I don't want to talk a lot about payroll, but obviously it's here to stay, because you need to pay money for someone's job. Briefly about compensation, and I'm gonna move towards vesting. I know I have 5 more minutes here. When it comes to compensation, you should be positioned in a way that you attract and retain the talent, and for that, providing them just a base salary, it's not enough. So basically, this is what we have in our company. We have salary and benefits, we have short-term incentives, and we have long-term incentives. With short-term incentives, I'm mentioning certain allowances. We have a lot of discounts with companies in Malaysia. And when it comes to long-term incentives, obviously, this is where we are talking about the equity grants. And what does this mean, and why would employees be interested in that? It's basically a long-term asset. It's like an investing scheme. And this is a very important component on our annual compensation, because it literally aligns the interests of our employees with the interests of our shareholders, and enables everyone to be part of the long-term success of the company. If the company share price goes up, I'm happy, because I have my options in the company. If the share price goes down, I need to understand how can I do to help the company to move up, because I have a direct interest in that. There are different instruments when it comes to equity grants. The most common on the market is a stock option or restricted stock units. Mainly the companies, the small startups, would start with the stock options. I do see also restricted stock units being popular nowadays. Stock options is basically when you give an employee the right, but not the obligation, to buy a share. So you give them, let's say, 100 items, units, and then those have a fixed price, which is called a strike price. They have a vesting period, and they decide when they resign if they want to exercise it or not. While the difference between the stock option and the restricted stock units, or RSUs, is the fact that you don't have to pay anything. The company gives the employee those equity units without any purchase to be expected from the employee side. And when the company chooses between stock options or restricted stock units, this is a very tough decision. Both of them are, they have positive and negative sides, but the RSUs are less risky for the employee, because you don't need to pay anything for it. It doesn't involve spending the money. However, the stock options are the most beneficial for the company, because they lock you in a certain price, and you are more they trigger you more to do that work in order for the company to grow. Now, vesting. Vesting basically means that you earn your employee stock over time. They give you 100 units, but you earn it over time. It's not, you don't have it from day one. Generally, in the startup scene, in the startup industry, they have a 4-year vesting schedule, and they also have a cliff. Cliff is the first part of your shares. 25% of your unit will be vested only at the end of year 1. So you need to stay with the company 1 year in order to unlock 25% of your pool. After that, it will vest on a monthly basis. Again, these are just, this is the most common trend on the market, but every company can decide if they want to have a 4-year vesting schedule or if they want to have a 5-year vesting schedule. Netflix, the company I was talking earlier, they have no vesting schedule. They say that they don't want to lock the employees with the shares. They give it, and they are ready to exercise it from day one. Again, that's why I was saying that they are they have quite interesting policies when it comes to their people. These stock options normally expire after 10 years from the date that they are granted, and they can exercise if they pay. Employees can exercise if they pay for it. The life cycle, basically, the company gives you the grant. Then there is this vesting period that is 4 years. You exercise it when you pay for it and you receive the company stock. There is taxes. It really depends the location where you're based in. I'm not familiar with how Moldova taxes the stock options, or if there is any law that would cover it. And there is an expiry date if you do not exercise this. And the vesting tools, when it comes to vesting tools, I think it's very important to understand what is your path as a company. Do you want to be public, or do you want to continue to be private? What is the market you operate in? So we used to work with Carta, private company, and Carta was literally managing, the whole equity domain. That's where I could log in and see how many stock options I have vested, what is the price, how many would I vest if I stay with the company for 2 more years. And the beauty of Carta is that they were also working on a marketplace for private companies, in order to be able to have transactions that would match the buyers and sellers. Because you can't sell your equity if you are in a private company. Now we switch towards something that is called ShareWorks. ShareWorks manages. It's a better solution when it comes for a public company. In ShareWorks, again, I will see all the you'll see all the equity you have, but also you can exercise it. You can sell it or buy it directly on that, and you don't need to use any other brokers. Just to mention that this is built basically by Morgan Stanley. And all the documentation, they would also provide you with a consultant who would, have training for your team members to understand how equity works in general. And this is where I will stop, and I will probably stop sharing my screen, and I will want to take questions from you.
Thank you. Thank you, Radhika. I think we can still come back to your slides in some questions. Okay. But yeah, let's see. Couple of questions from let's say from the audience and from my side as well. So what do you think about the idea that nowadays actually the employer hires not a time but the brain of the employees? So is it the right approach, or?
Sorry, they hire not. Can you please repeat the question?
So that nowadays, so in the last century, in 20th century, for example, so company hires time of the employees. So because, for example, so basically it was manufacturing,
Yep.
and so time means
Yep.
production means money. So
Yep.
nowadays it's more not in all cases, but mostly, let's say it's I would say creative and
Brain. Okay.
brain work. So
Um,
the question is it correct nowadays position yourself as an employee that you provide your brain, not your time, and let's say to fight for more flexible days, for not dedicating your time, because more important is the result, not the time spent on that?
This is a very, very cool question. I have mixed feelings about it because I think my time is valuable, and obviously, like I will just share the how it works with my company. We don't have fixed working hours. There is no expectations that we will be in the office from 9 to 5. We can come to the office at 1 p.m. if we want so. However, they are very, very strict with the OKRs or the KPIs. So what it really matters is the impact that we have in the team. And we have something called unlimited PTO, unlimited pay time off, basically the concediale. Yeah. So like there is no, we don't have like, okay, you have 14 or 20 or 30 days of vacation per year. It's unlimited. We decide how many days we want to take off, together with the manager, of course. But again, we use common sense. I can't just take off 3 months a year and pretend that I'm still, the top performer. Unless we can do that, I don't know. But the idea is that we don't want to decide if someone needs 30 days or 21 days or 40 days. It's up to you, it's up to the manager. The expectation is that you are a top performer. However, this makes us very strict when it comes to performance. And when we see that someone is a low performer, they out. They have 3 months and they are let go. To go back to your question, definitely, the brain is what matters nowadays the most, because we don't operate in that manufacturing system and policies the way they were built centuries ago. This is why companies are moving more towards remote and hybrid setups, because there is a lot more trust. You don't need to clock when you enter the office and to count the hours. Performance is also changing with a lot more transparency and focus not on the hours. But we still have companies that don't operate based on time. So I do say that brain is what I hire for, but I want to make sure that I'm paying the brains top of the market, not for the time, but for the fact that they are having a huge impact on my company. So pay is equally important.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you for your answer. Because it's also important. I mean, I reflect myself because time is it's basic. It's a basic thing for all human beings. Doesn't matter if you hire me or you pay me. You pay me not for my time. You're not mentioning my time. You hire my breaks,
Yep.
and you request results. So that's fair deal.
I mean, that also explains why, a lot of people, you move up the ladder and you start making more money. Eventually, each of us, can work, let's say 8, 10, 12 hours a day, right? But then we all earn different amounts. And obviously, that amount is reflected upon the impact that you have on the company. That's why also you have, back-end engineer with the same tenure with the company, but the difference in salary might be 30-40%, because we don't pay them for the time, but we pay them for the contribution that they have to the company.
The responsibility, the expertise.
Yeah.
Great. Another question. Also, so you shared your knowledge and let's say from Western companies, let's say from more developed markets. So do you face? Of course, you face difference. The question is, let's say, how close, let's say, TIS countries, let me reformulate, former Soviet Union countries, how they are close with this employment culture that you shared with us, are they close to this vision, or they are still in the Soviet Union?
This is an amazing question. We have a book club in at Moneyline, and the book that we are studying now, I think I have it somewhere behind me now. Like, it's called Culture Map, and basically looking at cultures in different areas, and how they differ. And then we look at different aspects. For example, punctuality. How is it perceived? We start at 1 p.m. in Moldova vs India vs US, yeah, and there is a huge difference. How do we conduct performance management? For example, in Moldova, if you are doing a poor job, your manager will say you are shit. This is very, very bad. Try again. While if you are working in US, they will tell you, I think it's a good job, but maybe you can look trying this. So they will never tell you that it's bad. It's really bad. And this is the only aspect where someone in US culture, it's not direct, because normally they're very direct, straightforward. But when it comes to feedback, they switch. They are very, very diplomat. Again, in the culture where I work mainly now, Malaysia, it's a mix. You would see I think the how I see it very close to Moldova is that the manager, the boss, he or she is everything, and they're always right, and you don't have to say no, and you don't have to contradict it. It's a huge difference. Culture-wise, I think that was my biggest shock. It's hard for me to say where Moldova is now, or just the entire area, because we actually acquired the company from Armenia. They are part of Moneyline. And we have in our leadership team people that are coming from Russia, from Ukraine. So when it comes to culture differences, the leadership team, you just need to work to understand how to operate with the differences. That's why I was saying, like we are literally now looking into this book and assessing it and discussing it with the entire team, because we have a very strong Chinese culture, a very strong Indian influence in Malaysia. I have about 40% of my team, including leadership, coming with an Indian background, including people that never lived in Malaysia before. We are hiring them from India and integrating them in the country. Again, we have a team in Armenia, which have completely different communication style. So I don't want to say that Moldova is somewhere lost in the Soviet Union days. I think there is a lot of potential. It all matters, like how much people that are listening to us now want to evolve, how fast and how far do they want to get, and how do they train, and how do they invest in the people that work with them. I've had amazing conversation with people at home this summer who are very open and very innovative in the way they perceive culture. I've also had conversation with people that are still, lost in that manufacturing culture, what you are telling me, saying that, nah, 9 to 5, if they are late 1 minute, then I'm going to penalize them. I'm going to call them at 9 a.m., say, why you're not in the office? I think it's a matter of choices and of talent, and I'm sure Moldova has talent.
Thank you, Radhika. And one last question from my side, and I will leave the floor for Mary to continue the conversation. We have a couple of other questions from the audience. How to find a balance between the personal, non-official approach from the management to the employees, and the balance between this and the following the hierarchy, and all of those goals, tasks, and KPIs, because it's always a tough, to find this, because when you try to create, some kind of relationships, it can happen that so they're not manageable, even though we're not telling that we need all people has to be managed, but in general, so they should be leaded, and so on and so on. So how to find this balance? Do you have any advices, or it's a matter of experience, and in 10 years it won't be an issue, let's say, for any manager to find this balance between relationships and managing people?
I don't believe in balance.
Okay, you believe in style of management, leadership or management.
I really think it's a style of management which is either driven by your personal experiences, what you were saying, or it's pushed from your top management, or it even comes from the country you operate in. So as an example, for example, I used to work with a company that had a very strong Korean management. And in the Korean culture, you have to build relationship outside work. You have to go drinking with your manager and with your team members if you want to be successful in your role. While and same things like happen in US culture, you are expected to have non-work related conversations with your team members. You're expected to ask them, how are you doing? How is your wife doing? How is your kid doing? How is your cat doing? How do you feel today? And only then you will be perceived as a good manager. Obviously the the experience that I have in Moldova is different, but still I would still think that the relationship outside work would count a lot in order to get the promotion or to be appointed to a cool project. And I'm not even sure if this is wrong. I don't think there is a wrong or right. You just need to learn to operate in the environment you are placed in. There is always a limit. I when I start leading new teams, my first meeting with them would be, this is who I am, this is my leadership style. I want to be transparent from day one, and then they would mold somehow under my style, or we will at least acknowledge the differences and move forward. But it's a huge topic, and it's really not only influenced by your individual choices. It really derives from the space you work in, the country you operate with, and the countries you've traveled, and everything lives leadership style. But I don't believe there is a balance. You can't be 50-50. It's either one way or another way. Yes, you can be a diplomat, but still, that's just going to keep you there.
Totally agree. Sorry, we switched somehow, but yeah, definitely. I had both experience with totally open, being open for employee, supposed to be as a colleagues, and versus have the when it's too appropriate, and sometimes you lost your authority, let's say. And the other approach, when really you keep the distance and you have this authority, but sometimes you need to have this touch. Thank you. Let's go. I'm not sure if you see the question from Alexei Chegley. I will add on the screen. So his question is, how can we distinguish employees and their importance while maintaining the quality of everyone in the company? Especially when it comes... Do you see on the screen directly?
Yes. Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, is basically how do we make a difference, and how do we reward and acknowledge good employees, our top talent, vs everyone else? I think this is how I read it. This is, this is a very interesting topic. You will know your star performers. They are the ones that will jump on the most difficult projects, and they are the one that will, work hardest, and they will be the most creative ones. And they will be well known by their team members as well. Be that a silent top performer or someone that is very vocal, they are known by their team members. And there are multiple ways for you to reward that person. The way we do it in my company is, first of all, doing fast promotions. We have, certain leveling in the company, and then the expectation is that you are at an L2, and then when you move to an L3, you would be like around 2 years in one level. We make exceptions. Sometimes we promote people within 6 months. And that conversation, it started by the manager, and it is because of the obvious impact that they had on projects, or because they build certain projects that give to the company back millions or billions. The other way we differentiate is by giving them access to very, very cool learning our courses, expensive training that is conducted, or mentorship, personal coaching by top mentors in the world. And they kind of unlock this experience only because they are good. We see that there is a lot of potential, and we want them to go up. You basically build your pool of talent that can drive the company. They can become your next CEO in 10 years. So that would be the other option, and like invest in their growth more. And the third, which I think is the basic one, bonus. I mean, when we do the bonus, we take into account company performance and individual performance. And sometimes we even do project-based bonuses, which not the entire company has access to it, but only people that worked on that project, they will unlock big amount of money. And they are happy, and we are also happy. I lost you. I don't hear.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
And also here, how to make that decrease of the engagement, let's say, when you see that efficiency is not so expected, and you have to have some discussions to, I don't know, how it's more suitable or most polite approach in that case.
I mean, there is no pleasant conversation when it comes to someone's low performance. And the only way to do it is to be transparent. Make it happen. This is the hardest job that the manager has, I think, and I really love it when the managers in my team, they come to me and they're like, oh, we have this person, we don't know what to do, can you talk with him? And I'm like, no, you should talk to him, you are the manager, I'm not going to do your job. So just be transparent. You never know what happens with that person. If you're not close to him, you don't know what happens in their personal life. There might be, you need to understand what is affecting their performance. Is there something in their personal life that is a short-term impact, or it's something related to the job scope that they have? Maybe they don't find it interesting anymore. Maybe they, some people, they are very good only when they work on the things that they like. Maybe you have assigned them to the wrong project, where they work with people that they can't interact with. So the first step is to understand the why, what is causing, and to listen to the employee on how they evaluate themselves. Most of the time, you'd be surprised that they know that their performance is low, and they will tell you, I'm not good at this, and I think this is the impact. Obviously, when you have someone that says I'm the best, and you think that they are not, then that's a complete mismatch, and there is low chances that you can bring them on the good track. But yeah, listen to them, try to understand what is the cause, and when you understand why they are doing this, you'll be on the good track to find the solution as well. It might be as simple as to move them to a new team, or to assign them a different project, or to give them 1 week off. Let them cool down, let them leave what they are living in their personal life, and come back with new strength.
Interesting. Related to your lot of books, could you recommend something related to this subject, something interesting for our audience? The best one.
I do. Can I come back with the list after this session?
Yeah,
I can
definitely.
for sure. I mean, the one that I really that's something that you can find online. I'm a big fan of the Harvard reviews. They always come with issues. Special issues sometimes, or just like the normal one, and they tackle on different topics. They had a few months ago on hybrid and like how is the workforce emerging. Now they are looking at how to succeed quickly in a new role. I have not read it yet, but like all the articles, they will display different opinions, and then it just helps you to think about it. On the books, for sure, I do have like a few recommendations. There is a book about Amazon and how they built their culture, written by ex-Amazon employees. Obviously, don't believe everything they write there, but the high level idea, you will understand it. Then the books that I was mentioning just now about Culture Map, how to operate with different cultures, how to operate when as a manager when you have employees from different backgrounds. Lead by Example, it's another one written by a former I think it was US Navy, if I'm not mistaken, but I was telling you, like military in US, they have amazing books. Extreme.
Did you read that book? I started, but I get bored.
I do. I never quit a book. I read 4 books at a time. But my goal is to really read it till the end. If I'm bored, I start a new book and then I go back to it. So yeah, I'll share this.
Okay. Yes, Alexei, can I have a question about stocks? When does a company usually enter the stock market?
Ooh.
This is, I think this is totally other topic. Not sure about the team and roles. And
I mean, it's a decision from the management. Staying as a private company or listing on a public market, it is the leadership team that will decide upon it. You as an employee will not have a say in this. The decision is really based on like, it's really different to work in a private company and then to work in a public company. Moneyline used to be a private, now we are a public company, and the switch from private to public took us about a year. A lot of documentation, and a lot of changes we need to do in order to be compliant with the public market. And obviously, now we work for everyone that owns stock in the company. The way we talk, the way we build products, everything has to be compliant. But obviously, going public, you access a different pool of funds. If you are private, it's your company. You do whatever you want to do. You talk however you want to talk. I mean, obviously, it would affect if you are really a poor manager. It will affect people that want to work with you, but you have control on the company. When you are a public company, you are less vocal, I would say. You have to really watch over what you're saying and how you're doing. So I don't think there is like a timeline, like 1 year you build a public company. Obviously, in order to go public, you need to have a product that is interesting. You need to have a team that can sustain the product. You need to have strong advisors to help you attract the market, because if nobody knows about you, nobody will buy the share. So it's done for nothing. But good question.
I will add, I think, one from my side. When do you think it makes sense to provide option for employees? I mean, we are here from the start from a company that are going to launch, for example, and it has make sense to start from the first day, or maybe later, or when it's more suitable.
I mean, look, if you start providing stocks to your employees, this means that more or less you plan to take take your company public. If you are giving...
I mean not stock, but like option as their role, let's say, their role in the company. When you are on the start, you have to do a lot of multifunctional works. Yeah. And it makes sense to come up with job position that it's very well described, that you will do that or that. or it's more let's say the scenario when, okay, we are working together, we are developing this company, and then we will define what kind of the role you will have. I mean,
Oh, you mean about the role?
The role
Okay.
of, yeah.
I mean, for a startup, there are a few critical roles that you start with. And what you'll also see is that at the beginning, I agree with you, there is no job scope. There is no fixed job scope unless you are a very technical person and they need to hire a full stack engineer or a mobile engineer. That's a little bit more, set in stone. However, even your mobile engineer can end up being a product manager. But for non-tech related jobs, it's very fluid. What I was telling you, I was hired to be the finance manager. I ended up doing hiring. I ended up doing sales. I ended up, doing walk-ins in restaurants in Singapore and selling the product. What you need to have in your first employees, and that's also what I have now for my company, someone that wants to do more, someone wants to learn how to build a business, and though they have a marketing background, they can, as I said, pick up the phone and do sales, or they can learn how to do an invoice and just grow, expand their knowledge. Once the company grows, you will need to have expertise for certain levels, and that's where your job scope will be more defined and attached to a certain product or department or function.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much for these questions, all questions, for such inspiring presentation and this manner of answering and describing.
Thanks.
So I don't see any other questions, and I will close this session. And if participants will have any questions or requests to connect with you, we'll ask you if you will be able to be in charge. And thank you very much for your involvement in developing startup ecosystem in Moldova.
Likewise, I wish you all a lot of, just best of the luck, and you're doing a great job there. When I left Moldova 6-7 years ago, there was no topic. There was nothing about startup scene, or at least I was not familiar to it. I love it that you brought it in the university. I would have loved when I was at ASEM to have such a session. I think it would have helped me to move towards the startup scene faster and sooner. If you want to connect with me, I'm happy to do it via LinkedIn. I think that would be the best professional tool where I would be active. I do have a Facebook account, but I'm really not active there, so I don't think I would reply to a lot of people. LinkedIn or email, I'm fine to share my email as well if they have work related questions. And I do owe you a list of books. Let me know if I send it via email. Happy to share a few recommendations that I think are helpful for this topic, people, culture, building a company, and where do you start?
And not only, maybe we will have a list of books recommended by our mentors. Yeah, this is a great idea, by the way.
Sure.
And thank you for that book. I will continue to read, I think.
Yes.
Have a nice evening, and thank you very much. Have a great.
Awesome. Can't wait to sleep. It's 12:30. Good.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
And lovely to meet you, although I didn't see the faces. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.